What if death wasn't the final chapter of your life, but the beginning of an even darker, unexplainable journey? Lucy Harding thought she knew what waited on the other side, until the moment her heart stopped, and she was thrust into a world where the rules of time and space no longer applied. Trapped between life and death, Lucy must confront the horrors lurking in the shadows and the secrets that threaten to pull her back to a fate worse than death itself. Lucy Harding had always been a realist. At 29, she had a stable career as a medical researcher, an apartment in the city, and a life that made sense. She didn't believe in the supernatural, the afterlife, or anything that couldn't be explained through science. For Lucy, death was a natural end, a closure to everything she knew. She was content with this understanding until that day, when her world was shattered. The accident happened without warning. She had been driving home late from the lab, tired after a long day of work, when her car suddenly swerved. The last thing she remembered was a flash of headlights, followed by a deafening crash. Then, there was nothing. But when Lucy opened her eyes again, it was not the familiar interior of her car that greeted her. No, this place was cold, dark, and endless. It felt like a void, a space where time didn't exist. She stood disoriented in the center of an abyss. The air was thick with something heavy, like the world itself was pressing in on her. And there was a whisper, faint at first, like a wind carrying a message she couldn't quite hear. As she felt the air shift. The voice, now unmistakable, came again, but this time it was accompanied by a presence, something behind her. Spinning, she saw a figure, a tall, thin silhouette, glowing faintly in the inky darkness. The figure took a step toward her, and Lucy's heart raced with dread. She opened her mouth to scream, but her voice caught in her throat. The figure moved closer, its shape becoming clearer. It was a woman, her face pale, eyes hollow, and her lips twisted into a faint smile that did nothing to soothe Lucy's growing terror. "Where am I?" Lucy managed to whisper, her voice trembling. The woman didn't speak. She simply extended a hand, beckoning Lucy forward. Lucy hesitated. She had never believed in ghosts, or spirits, or anything that couldn't be explained. She was a scientist, a rational person. But in that moment, the woman's presence felt too real, too unsettling. And against her better judgment, Lucy took a step toward her. As soon as Lucy made contact with the woman's hand, everything around her shifted violently. The air became heavier, the space growing colder. Suddenly, images flashed in front of Lucy's eyes, scenes from her life, her childhood, her parents, her younger brother. The way her mother used to sing her to sleep, the way her father's laugh could light up a room. And then the memories turned darker. Her college years, the mistakes she'd made, the moments she regretted, people she had hurt, ignored, or forgotten. And then it hit her, the truth. This wasn't just a place between life and death. This was a place for reckoning, a place where unresolved emotions, guilt, and unhealed wounds came to the surface. "What is this?" Lucy gasped, her body trembling as the memories assaulted her. The woman's voice echoed in her mind again, but this time, it wasn't just her voice. "You can't escape. You have unfinished business." Lucy's head spun. "What do you want from me?" The woman's smile faded into something darker, something more sinister. "You can't leave until you face it all. The things you ignored, the choices you made, the people you hurt." As the words sank in, Lucy began to feel a cold weight pressing down on her chest. Guilt, regret, fear. They had always been there, lurking beneath the surface, but now they were amplified, consuming her. She had never truly confronted the darker aspects of her life, the mistakes she couldn't undo, the promises she broke, the love she never fully embraced. "Please," Lucy pleaded, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." But the woman stepped back, her face now twisted in a cruel smirk. "Apologies will not save you here. Only acceptance can." Lucy's heart pounded in her chest as the darkness around her began to close in. Desperation surged through her, and she screamed into the void, but the silence swallowed her cries. Lucy closed her eyes, accepting the weight of her past. She knew the woman was right. She had never truly understood the consequences of her actions, nor had she ever truly forgiven herself. And as the darkness consumed her, she realized one final truth. Death might not be an escape, but a reminder to make peace before the clock runs out. As everything faded into oblivion, she heard a final whisper, one that echoed deep within her soul. "Are you ready to face your truth?" And in that haunting moment, she wasn't sure if she had truly died, or if this was only the beginning of her eternal reckoning.